is up, guys? Welcome back to another book review. I'm, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson, and today we are taking on another Colleen Hoover book, November 9th. Alright, let's get right into it by reading the Inlet. I will give a basic review, just general overtone of what I thought of the book, and then the second back half of this episode will be where I give all the spoilers and give the full lowdown review. Alright, let's start with the Inlet. Fallon meets Ben, an aspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought for his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same date every year, until one day Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. Can Ben's relationship with Fallon and simultaneously his novel be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? Sounds spicy, sounds complicated, sounds Colleen Hoover. Let's talk about, real quick, fun fact. Why is it called November 9th? She titled it because that was the deadline that she was due to, send this book in to her publisher. That's the day it was due, so that's how she started with the title of November 9th. Book starts. Fallon and her father are meeting in a restaurant for lunch. Fallon, it was an actress. She was in an accident, a house fire that left her body burnt up pretty badly, that ruined her career. Her father was also an actor. He was a famous actor back in the day. And they don't get along well because Fallon sees the fire as her father's fault. She was staying at her father's house when the fire erupted. She wasn't there often, but her dad did not run back in initially to look for her. He kind of forgot she was there, which led to the severity of her burns. So they don't have a good relationship. Upon entering the restaurant, he's kind of getting on her about what she's going to do with her life. She's saying, I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to go be on Broadway. He's kind of like, hey man, give it up. You know that's not realistic. And again, he's not trying to be mean, but he is being very hurtful and insulting. So while they're in the restaurant, Fallon sees this guy, of course, typical romance novel fashion. They see each other, and just the lustfulness and the hot and botheredness is just so apparent by this one person in the room. She sees him, she takes note. He goes to the restroom, or she ends up going to the restroom, coming back, sees him. While her father's getting into her about, hey, you can't be an actress, Ben turns around, that's who it was sitting there, and turns around and goes, hey, sorry I'm late, and sits down and acts like, he's her boyfriend, and pretty much tells her dad to shove it, essentially. Now, Ben and Fallon end up spending a night together, as we see in the back of the book. They fall for one another, but Fallon goes, look, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to claim to be in a relationship, fall in love, none of that. I live by a strict rule. My mom, said you should never fall in love before 23. I'm only 18, so they got 5 years to figure out what they're going to do. And they make this weird agreement that they're going to meet up in the same restaurant on the same date, November 9th, every single year. And they do. And there's ups and downs, and there's a lot of plot twists. A big plot twist comes in. And yeah, so that's about the best I can do without spoiling the book. How did I like November 9th? I really liked it. I think it's worth the read. The plot twists are enough to that alone will leave you talking about the book. So I would give this book definitely a 5 out of 5 stars. Easy read, knocked it out in a day. It's of the Colleen Hoover, brand, so you're going to get a little mind boggled as to some of the scenarios that go on, but that's why we love Colleen Hoover. So if you don't want to see any spoilers, just go ahead and subscribe now so you can catch my other videos. Go check out the old ones. But now it is time to get into spoiler time. Spoiler time. Okay, let's get into it. Fallon, Ben end up having a relationship where it's not a relationship. They go, look, we're not going to contact each other. We're not going to look each other up. We block each other on social media. We all know how that goes. You end up looking. They are like, we're not going to talk. We're not going to keep up. The only thing we're going to do, Ben is going to take the inspiration of meeting Fallon and he's going to write a novel about this deal that they have. Can love last by only meeting one day a year until they're 23, and then they can decide whether or not they want to be together. The biggest plot twist ends up coming. Ben's brother dies, and he is left to take care of his son. So Ben's brother is with a girl named Jordan, and they all live together. His brother dies suddenly, like a month or so before, maybe it was like a week or so before his son was supposed to be born. Now, you find this out because they're going back and forth between Fallon and Ben. Each chapter is a different perspective. So you only find out about the biggest plot, well, not the biggest plot twist, but that one of the bigger plot twists is that Ben, upon like the second year meetup, is dating Jordan and living with them and is treating his nephew as if it's his son. He's pretty much taken up where his brother left off, which sends them into a spiral when they're meeting, and Fallon realizes what's going on. He never tells her. She just puts two and two together with the baby, and he says something like, when we go to sleep at night, he stays right there, and she gets it. She gets what he was saying. Breaks her heart. She doesn't know what to do. She would never ask Ben, obviously, to leave his brother's kid, because the year prior to that, she already knew that the brother died because they were supposed to meet. Ben couldn't because it was like that day or like 2 days prior that his brother had died. Fallon hurried up and went to where he was and spent the night with him, but then was still like, this doesn't mean anything. We're still not together. See you next year. So then that next year, when he ended up being with Jordan, it was kind of like you understood why, because he gave her the option to be like, hey, choose me now. Let's do this together. And she was like, nah, fam, even with your brother dying and all, nah, we're sticking to the plan. I think we should do that. So then when he was with Jordan, it just was kind of like, you were like, oh, okay, they're done. They're not going to reconvene. So then for the fourth year, you just assume they're not going to meet. They end up, or Fallon ends up trying to avoid him, going to a club with her friends. Typical Colleen Hoover fashion. She's there talking to another guy. It's completely harmless. And in comes Ben. He sees her. They end up spending the night together. And it's one of these situations where, okay, now we have to get into the biggest plot twist, which is they end up breaking up, coming back together. As things are getting really, really good, Fallon finds out that it was actually Ben who started the house fire because he found out that Fallon's father was seeing, at one point, his mother. Ben's mother committed suicide, and he thought that the reason she committed suicide was because of her heartbreak over losing Fallon's father. He did not know that, well, he did. I can't say he didn't know anything. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew who Fallon was. He knew who her dad was. He knew it from the second he turned around and approached them at the table. He had been following her. He wanted to see just what her life was like. So that's the biggest plot twist of the book, is you find out that Ben, through the memoir, it's kind of like Verity. It reminded me a lot of Verity, where through the memoir, you find out that he did it. He was trying to damage this car that he thought Fallon's father loved so much, and it ended up catching the whole house on fire and burning him. So then you think, once she finds that out, well, there's no way she could ever forgive him, because the whole time they were falling in love, he was like rubbing her scars and telling her how beautiful she was. And during all the lovemaking scenes, he would just undress her first and just look at her and tell her how beautiful she was. And that was kind of her. She gained a lot of confidence during that, and he didn't want to take that away from her, but he knew at some point he was going to have to tell her the truth. So that being the biggest plot twist, Obviously, she breaks up with him. She's terrified of him. She thinks, like, has this guy been stalking me? Why the hell would the guy that burnt my house down and caught me on fire and ruined my life, why would he follow me and try to convince me to fall in love with him? Well, eventually her mom ends up reading the manuscript and is like, you need to read this. You need to read it. So then you find out that at the very end, Ben's mother did not kill herself because of a heartbreak over Fallon's father, even though they had dated. It was because she had terminal cancer. She was going to die, and she didn't want all their family resources to be tied up in her treatment and for her kids to watch her die that way. So it was a very, very, very good book. I liked it a lot. As soon as I put it down, I already had, what was it? I had the other one. I had another one that I'm going to read. As soon as I put this one down, I already had Ugly Love, which these two kind of go hand in hand together. You hear similar names. Ian, Fallon, Ben, Tate. You hear, so these two, if you read them very close together, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd give some space because then they might start to blend together story-wise. But crazy books, both of them. I am about to review Ugly Love, so if you want to see that, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the bell, and it'll let you know as soon as I upload anything. Love you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.